the kind of myth that's propagated that Asian system is just kind of learning by rote, but I think that's definitely not true in my experience of Taida. I think that the majority of the students that I've come across have been aware that they have to study a large amount of content, which is quite clearly there was a professor who came to our institute, Leo Fun, and he was trying to encourage students to make an argument in their work, so they didn't have to write as much as maybe they would write normally, but they had to write a solid argument. And I think that the problem with Taida students is that if you talk to them on an individual basis, they can argue quite well and they have very good analytical skills. It's just like in terms of they tend to write they tend to write essays because they know that the teacher will like a certain thing. So I think that definitely high DAS students have unbelievable flair, unbelievable intelligence, and that they're so capable of expressing themselves in a way that the English education system is maybe not, because the English system is so narrow in a way, and what you have to study is so limited, and you don't have that kind of broad understanding that because they have to spend so much time and they have to take so much work into it. You find that Taiwanese students are able to they just have so much knowledge of everything, and then they're able to analyze it on the basis of the broad foundation of knowledge they have. Uh, they tend to deliberately write what the teacher wants to hear, as opposed to writing what they actually think. And like uh, you almost find a lot of the time that students are just trying to please the teacher, as opposed to actually conscientiously trying to have conversation or to have dialogue about a particular subject or author. I say that the people who have come across at Taida who are undergraduates are very well prepared in the fact that they're confident, they're able to speak their mind, they can speak very well and persuasively, they can intake a lot of information in foreign languages, they can intake information in Chinese, they can process things really quickly, and they're just so capable at what they do. It kind of, obviously I said it was intimidating. As a foreign student, it's because everybody is so the standards are pushed up so high that you struggle to keep up. So similarities are in the case of you're dealing with a kind of a nation that's kind of dealing with a post-colonial identity where you've lost both in where a kind of local language has suffered uh, in detriment to a bigger, more universal language in terms of Taiwanese and Chinese and maybe Hakka and the Aboriginal dialects as well, suffering to Mandarin, and then Irish Gaelic suffering to English. But I think that one of the main differences is that in terms of time and like uh, in terms of memory, because in my mind the split between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland makes a big difference to the ability. So I think it's actually harder for Northern Irish people to have a solid identity, because you're questioned on both sides. You're not you can't say that you're Irish, because people from the Republic of Ireland have kind of claimed that identity kind of for themselves, whether you think that's wrong or right. But and then you can't say that you can say you're British, but basically English people don't care, and they claim kind of most English people kind of claim the term British to mean English a lot of the time, which is quite. But obviously, I haven't been in Northern Ireland for 7 years, and I think that maybe the political climate. Although I know that there's been a lot of problems with the talks recently, but I think that yeah, obviously there's this kind of drive in me, which is kind of irrational, to identify with non-violent nationalism, but it's kind of you can see the kind of the fallacy in it in the fact that if you I've gone to an English university as I've prospered out of the like being part of the UK and I like the UK. I love my friends. So you kind of think like this kind of idea of drawing borders is kind of like a little bit facile in a way, and you can kind of think that like maybe in Taiwan it's a lot more kind of important for them because if you compare Republic of Ireland to the UK, pretty much life standards and life like in terms of cultural norms are pretty much the same. Although we pretend to kind of have this kind of separate, unique identity, I think it's kind of a fallacy because the EU and like the amount of immigration and that occurred. But in Taiwan, I think it definitely makes a difference because of the political situation and the fact that they have democracy and mainland China does not permit that, and the fact that they've had this kind of like a separate identity for a long time, which has been completely different, like unlike the UK and Ireland. Uh, so I think like the difference maybe it's because the the major difference would be that the political differences that separated like England from Ireland have kind of more or less disappeared, whereas in Taiwan it's still very kind of although you can say that like obviously the Taiwanese graduate institute has hosted a lot of mainland students who come over and study here, and you can see the similarities. Obviously, everyone's people, but in terms of political rights and like the rights of like free speech, I think it's still a kind of a major difference, and it would make a big difference, and that's why you get so many green students in Taiwanese literature department because it actually makes a difference to them. Like,